Hello out there, and today's video is going to be a fun one because today we are doing an elimination style competition to figure out what is my favorite lightweight knife. And I've done a video similar to this before. I called the format The Last Knife Slicing, and the first one I did was about budget knives. That was a lot of fun too, so I will link to that down below if you want to check that out. But today's there are probably going to be a lot more knives on the table than in that video just because there are so many really good lightweight options. And that's one of the caveats I want to start out with in this video, is that any one of these knives that we end up talking about today is going to be a great lightweight option. And I had to come up with parameters, and I had to come up with aspects of a knife that I value the most in order to come up with a winner. But when it comes down to it at the end of the day, I mean, all of these knives, like I said, are going to be great. So the parameters of this competition, the things I was really looking for were knives that were under 3 ounces in weight. And most of these knives are going to be far below that. But in order to even be in the competition, had to be under 3 ounces in weight with a 2.75 inch cutting edge. So this little guy right here, the CRKT Jettison, not in the competition. All right. And then the other things that you have to keep in mind are that I can only talk about knives that I currently have. And so while I do have a Salt 2 right here, I do not have a Delica 4, which I know would definitely be in the competition if it were here. You know, the big difference between this knife and the Delica 4 is the absence of liners in the Salt, which I will address again in an upcoming update video. And the other one that really comes to mind, the other knife that I know if it were in my possession would be talked about today, is the Spyderco Native 5. But mine are currently traveling the country getting tested by a number of other people, so I don't have it to talk about. So again, the point of this video isn't to say this one particular knife is the best lightweight knife. That's really not what I'm getting at. What I'm trying to do is show you what my thought process is when it comes to selecting a knife and why one might be better than the other for you. So maybe from watching this, you'll be able to have an understanding of, all right, what is the most important aspect for you in a lightweight knife? You know, because the things that I was really valuing were the weight and the rigidity and the ergonomics. Like, those are the 3 main things that I was thinking about. Because as we cut weight, we are going to continue to lose the strength of the knife. You know, eventually you have to get rid of liners. You have to get rid of strong support, and so everybody will have a different sweet spot when it comes to that. And I'll touch on that again. All right, so that's really all I wanted to talk about before we get into it. So let's hit what the final 10 knives were. I'll just flash them really quickly, and then I will do the first set of eliminations to get us down to our final 6, which is where the real competition is going to start. All right, so here's one of them, the Spyderco Salt 2. And what I'll do is I'll put the scale down so we can get the weight of each knife as we introduce it. So the Spyderco Salt 2 comes in at 2.05 ounces. Pretty ridiculous if you ask me. We've got the Spyderco Centofanti 3 at 2.57 ounces. And then the Kershaws, we have the Fraction at 1.99 ounces, the lightest knife in the competition. The Chill comes in at 2.16 ounces. The Kershaw Leak with the liner lock comes in at 2.5, about a ½ ounce lighter than the frame lock version. And then the heaviest knife that we're going to talk about today is the Dividend, also by Kershaw, 2.95 ounces. Then we have one knife from Browse Blades. This is the Bionic 2, 2.65 ounces. D2 tool steel on that one. And then 3 Benchmades. The Mini Grip at 2.78. We also have the 531 at 2.1. And then the largest, at least in overall length and blade length in this competition, the 940 at 2.60 ounces. And this knife wasn't even supposed to be in the competition, but I realized how light it was when I was carrying it the other day, and I was like, I can't leave it out. So those are the 10 knives, and I'm immediately gonna just eliminate 4 of them. All right, I'm gonna eliminate 4 of them and get to a final 6. And the 4 that are going away: Benchmade Mini Griptilian, Kershaw Leak, Kershaw Dividend, and Browse Blades Bionic 2. And here's why. Starting with the mini grip. This knife does everything that you could possibly want a lightweight knife to do. It feels pretty good in the hand. It's ergonomic, like I said. It's light at the 2.6 ounce range. It feels strong. You do have the axis lock, so I think the axis lock makes up a little bit for the fact that there aren't like full liners. But there still are, you know, some measure of liner with the axis lock frame in there. So it is a good strong knife, but just when it comes to lightweight, there are lighter knives and knives that are just as strong in this competition. So it just wasn't quite as good in that capacity. But again, when we're talking about what a lightweight knife is going to be to you, this will be more than sufficient for just about everybody who's watching. Now, the Leak at that extremely lightweight 2.5 ounces, it's just a great knife. And sad to see it go, but the real thing that holds this one back is that these the handle scales here are just pretty slick. The pocket clip isn't particularly good. Not going to ding it too big on that because that's not really the focus of the video, but it doesn't really carry that great. So being lightweight, this knife actually has been pulled out of my pocket and I didn't notice it. So that's just something to keep in mind. But yeah, these scales here are very slick. So not the most ergonomic knife that we're going to see today. So I left it out for that reason. Now the heaviest knife is being left out because it's the heaviest knife. It's the Dividend. And again, this really comes back to the point I made earlier where this is a completely subjective video because I do not have a single issue with the weight of this knife. And I love the full liners. I love the fact that it's just extremely comfortable in the hand. It actually is an improvement over the Leak in a number of ways with a very similar blade shape. Because like I said, it does fit the hand a whole lot better. But at 2.95 ounces, it just isn't the lightweight option that will win this competition. And then, last but not least, the reason why the Browse is going away, and as a lot of you know, this is one of my most used knives, and it's been a favorite of mine for a long time. But I have had a couple of these, and the same issue has recently come up with this knife that came up with the other Browse knives that I've had. And that was up and down blade play has started to develop. And it's not to the point where I can't use the knife, but it is just a bit of a concern. And when one of the things we really value in this competition is rigidity and strength as we cut weight, I just can't in good faith, you know, put this knife into the competition. Now I know there are plenty of Browse blades out there and plenty of Bionic 2s that don't have this issue, but the one that's in front of you is starting to get it just a little bit. And I can't fix it, so I can't really consider it for the best lightweight knife. And that leaves us with the final 6. Final 6, exciting times. And what I'm going to do, since we have 2 of each brand that are left, we have 2 Kershaws, we have 2 Spydercos, and we have 2 Benchmades, we are going to eliminate 1 from each of the companies that is still represented. So I will show you the final 6 very quickly, and then I will move them out of the way and start with 2. All right, so these are the final 6, the 940, the 531 from Benchmade, the Salt 2 from Spyderco, and the Centofanti 3 from Spyderco, and then the Kershaw Chill and the Kershaw Fraction. And that is where we're going to start with the Kershaws, and really excited about both of these knives. And both of these knives are excellent, really lightweight options. I mean, extremely light with 1.99 ounces from the Fraction. And one of the things that I really appreciate when it comes to this knife is just that you have the good strength and rigidity of G10. I mean, the carbon fiber overlays here I don't think add to anything besides ergonomics and looks. But the G10, the structure is really good there, and then you do have a basically full liner going all the way back. So it does make this a pretty good knife to use. And I mean, I have used this knife relatively hard in the past, and it works well. Ergonomically, it fits really nicely into my hand, but I do have concerns that maybe someone with a larger hand wouldn't be able to hold it as well. And so that's really one of the things that stands out between this and the Chill. You know, the Chill at about an extra 1/5 of an ounce, it does have full liners on both sides, and it is a little bit more ergonomic, especially for me. And I can envision, again, like I said, people with larger hands liking this knife a lot more. This choil just makes it extremely comfortable, no hot spots whatsoever. So just a really, really strong, really lightweight knife. Very impressive, 8 CR13 MOV, really nice price point too, which isn't really a factor in this competition, but you know, it is one that you can get your hands on really easily. So the Chill, I think, when it comes to the Kershaws, is going to be the victor, and so that means that the fraction is eliminated and will not be the last knife slicing. So the Chill moves on. We'll put it aside for now as we bring in the Spydercos. All right, and here is the Salt 2 and the Centofanti 3. Got a lot of fingerprints on some of these knives. Sorry about that, guys, but they are getting handled quite a bit here. The Salt 2 with H1 steel, really like it. Really like the serrations on this one. And then VG10 on the Centofanti 3. Each of these knives has something holding it back. And again, this would be a different conversation if this were a Delica, because it would weigh about an extra 1/4 of an ounce plus, but it would have these the liners on the inside to give it a little bit more rigidity. And so that would definitely change things. But when it comes to the two most ergonomic knives in the competition, it is these. These lock into your hand so well. They're perfectly comfortable. You know, and sometimes you don't really get an understanding of how ergonomic a knife is until you have a lot of knives in your hand in a short period of time. And so the fact that I was able to handle all of these knives, you know, within a 20-minute period when I was really testing them out for this competition, I mean, it made it clear, like, these two both stood head and shoulders above the rest when it came to the way that they fit in my hand. And the Centofanti 3 was certainly even better than this Salt 2. Centofanti 3 just extremely good in the hand. Now, while the Salt 2 has the one drawback when it comes to no liners, the Centofanti 3 does have liners. It has one full liner going down one side of the FRN scales on the inside, and then on the other side, and you can't really see, on the other side there's like a partial liner that's near the top of the scale. And the reason why I can't really show you that any better is, one, we have closed construction, but also we have pinned together construction, which is really the Achilles heel for this knife, man. I mean, God, just every time I talk about this knife, that always has to come up, because I love being able to take my knives apart and maintain them and do the things that need to be done. And if there is anything that develops, you know, a lot of stuff you can take care of on your own instead of having to send it in somewhere. And the good news is I've had this knife for quite a while now, and nothing has ever come up where I did need to take it apart, but I really do want to be able to do that. And it's a bummer that Spyderco hasn't come out with something to make that happen. You know, like a newer version or a sprint run or something. All right, so both of these knives are fantastic. They're extremely light, and, you know, going back and forth, very hard decision, but I am actually still going to stick with the Centofanti 3. Just really like having the extra structure, and the fact that this is so perfect in the hands, just perfect in the hands, sets it apart, and it does eliminate the Salt 2 from this competition. The Salt 2 will not be the last knife slicing. So we have the Centofanti 3, we have the Chill, and then one more knife is going to make the cut. We have the Benchmade 531 and the Benchmade 940. And guys, to be honest with you, I'm sitting here right now not even sure which one is going to make it. I don't know what the final decision here is. You know, I've been planning this video and doing all these things, and excuse me, and doing all these things and trying to figure out what my mindset was going to be, but I really don't even know, so we are going to riff and figure this out together right now. All right, so the 940, again, just a big surprise that a knife of this size weighs as little as it does. And I mean, that's because even though we do have a very long blade length here, it is, in terms of height, just a very small one. So, hold on, let me get that reset here. And it's a gorgeous knife, and it fits really well in the hands. The jimping is decent, and that's sort of why it's not quite as good as, say, the Centofanti 3 in the hand, because, you know, it's just not as grippy right here with the jimping, but just an excellent knife. You know, people have talked about this knife in a dozen different capacities, just talking about how great it is for this task or that, and it just performs. It performs, and it's time and tested, and just wonderful. The 531 was a surprise just at the 2.1 ounce range. Just extremely good, lightweight, strong axis lock. Again, both of these knives are going to be fantastic for you. Don't really have any complaints when it comes to either of them. The one thing that I will say, though, with the 531 that I did bring up in the review is that it is a little bit difficult to get a comfortable spot in the hand. You can see the shape of that butt right where the lanyard hole is as it curves into your palm. You have to get it just right so that it doesn't dig in. And then it's pretty comfortable to use. But the thing that I guess holds this knife back is the fact that with extended use, it probably will not be as comfortable. And so, again, being really nitpicky, I think that there were a couple people when I talked about this video on Instagram who told me that this was definitely going to be the winner, and it could have been. I mean, it is a great knife, the 531, but it is not going to be the last knife slicing. So we are eliminating that, and we are going down to the final three: the Benchmade 940, the Spyderco Centofanti 3, and the Kershaw Chill. And gosh, really hard to say a winner here. Really hard. What I think about when I'm thinking about a lightweight knife, though, is something that is really thin and streamlined, and I think the Chill is definitely the best example of that. Just a really thin knife, good and strong, but definitely not going to take up a lot of pocket space. A ton of value for that knife as well. Just really impressed with it. I know I've talked about it before, but just really impressed with that Chill. The Centofanti 3, again, holding it in the hand, even after the 940, it's a cut above just the way that it fills the hand. Extremely comfortable. I love the blade shape. VG10 is a really good steel. So definitely going to be hard to eliminate that if that is the decision. And then the 940 is a really good one. You know, I think what we're going to do, and I can't really rationalize it, guys. I mean, all three of these are winners to me. So instead of eliminating two more, what I'm going to do is just select a winner. And despite the fact that it has that Achilles heel of a pinned together construction, I think the winner of this competition is the Spyderco Centofanti 3. The Spyderco Centofanti 3, for me, is the last knife slicing when it comes to a lightweight knife. Alright, it's not the lightest on the table, 2.57. I mean, there are lighter, but I think when it comes to the whole package and a knife that you want to use, then this is definitely the one to go with. Really beautiful knife, lightweight, like I said a bunch of times, feels great in the hand, and then if something ever does happen where there is maintenance, I will cross that bridge when I come to it, and I know that Spyderco will take care of me. But for now, this one is definitely the winner. And all of these knives, though, just really good options. I'll bring out as many more as I can just to say goodbye and give you a look at them one more time. But yeah, now's the question, guys. What's yours? What do you think? What decision did I make was right? What decision did I make that was wrong? Let me know. Let me know all your feedback down below. Really looking forward to the conversation here. Probably the longest video I've posted in a long time, but hopefully you enjoyed it and it was worth the time. Any other questions, comments, complaints, suggestions? As always, looking forward to talking with you. Have a good one, and I will talk with you soon. Take care.